What's up, guys? Welcome back to Movie Master, where we rank, review, trailer react, and talk news about movies, TV shows, and sometimes video games. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're going to do a review on Spectacular Spider-Man, released and aired between 2008 and 2009, Series 1 and 2. So today, I'm going to review both seasons. Now remember, this is my opinion. So yes, and if you guys haven't checked out the show, make sure to check it out. It's available, both seasons are available on Netflix. And make sure to check them out. And if you have it on DVD, check it out. Now overall, what do I think of this? This show was created back in 2008. And as many of you know, my last video was indeed TNAS. Now my personal story behind this is that when I was a little kid, my mum would always clean around the house, and every day after that, she would pop on a movie. As a little kid, I got into the casual stuff. Disney, Pixar, kids cartoons, all kinds of stuff. Kids cartoons, all kinds of that stuff. I got into those kind of things. Thomas the Tank Engine. Cartoons on in the mornings, like cartoons, and then just, yeah. Also, I watched Back to the Future Part 1, 2, and 3, which my mom bought when I was only 3 years old, so that made a massive impact on me. She bought those for me when she bought them for herself on the 25th anniversary, and ever since then, I've been a diehard fan. And I even got the video game that was released on it in the 30th anniversary pack for Christmas, when about 5 years back. Next, after that was then Transformers. My mom also got me into as a little kid, and if you've seen my Transformers content, you know I'm a big fan of the first 3 live-action films. So anywho, my mom had finished making some food. She would always wake me up, make me breakfast, go off to clean around the house. I'll pop out my toys. She'll pull out my toys for me, and then I'll pull out the rest of the toys myself. Find me a toy I liked, slam them together, and then while I was playing with them, my mom would clean up and then put on a movie. And after that, well, she'll pick a movie. And she picked Spider-Man 2002 because she only had the first one back in the time to watch. She was going to go see Spider-Man 3, which was coming out in May at the time, but she couldn't because, well, she was giving birth to me. I was born 1 month before the film came out here in New Zealand on May 4th. The film came out on May 4th, 2007 in America and New Zealand, and Australia, I think. And then later after that was The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. I even saw The Amazing Spider-Man 1 as my 3rd movie in the cinemas. So yeah, continuing on the show. So after I watched Spider-Man 1, then obviously I watched Spider-Man 2.1, the alternate cut. So I grew up with that version of the film, not the sequel. I never actually watched the proper version of it until I was like 8. Then I watched Spider-Man 3, finally. And then after watching the first 3 Raimi films, as a 4-year-old, I saw Spectacular Spider-Man. Now, I kind of thought it was like a Raimi one, but it sort of was, and it was so unique, and I really loved it. And the show was meant to go for more than 2 seasons. It was meant to go for like, I think 4 or 5 more seasons. But the show was cancelled, and there's a big reason as to why, and I will get into it later on into the video. But overall, this show was really impactful to me. It's where I first saw Rhino, the Shocker, Electro, and a bunch of other villains that I never saw, because obviously I knew the Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, Sandman, Venom, and even probably what had happened, the new Goblin, considering they all saw them in the 3 Raimi films, because the only thing out at the time was the Raimi films. And since those are the biggest thing at the time, the show based themselves off the Raimi films. And it was so brilliant that even that the Raimi films had a big impact that the next 2 cartoons after it, especially TNAS and Spectacular Spider-Man, took inspiration from it. Obviously, Ultimate Spider-Man took a more different route and went for the more, not even just went for Disney's superhero route, and went for the Tom Holland Spider-Man movie route with Maximum Venom. And yeah, and the new freshman year show will kind of follow the MCU's Peter. So yeah, each one is taking a different liking, akin to a different feel of Spider-Man's character. Now, what did I think of this in general? Let's start. Let's start with the good, and probably the only section that will make it into this video. The story. The story is brilliantly well told. The story starts up like this. We pick up with a Peter Parker who's already about a few months into his Spider-Man career. It's been about a few months since he became Spider-Man, and well, now he's now Spider-Man, and now it's back at school, and he now has to try and get a girlfriend. He wants to get a girlfriend, but he's being bold and brave. Soon he ends up getting a girlfriend in the form of Liz Allen, like in the comics, who he had a crush on. He even has a little bit of a fling with, a little bit of a short thing for Betty Brant. Later on, he ends up even having a crush for Gwen Stacy, who's his best friend, and Harry Osborn, who's also his best friend. And these characters are very unique. They're different from other takes, but yeah, the Harry in this show feels like the one from the comics, yet the one from the films in one whole part. And I really do wish they had the show continued. Harry would have likely followed in his father's footsteps, so yeah. This was a cool, unique thing, and I think, yeah. And I'm very happy that the Tanash show, the new animated series, is getting revived by fans, because that's the best way it can get justice. And it can get justice like that, and we can see Harry Osborn's arc play through in the new animated series continued one. For Spectacular Spider-Man, that was remaining to be seen whether or not Harry would take up the Goblin moniker. But nonetheless, continuing on throughout the first season, we see him face off against some classic baddies. We don't see Green Goblin quite automatically. He's actually showing up near the end of the first season. We mostly see pretty older, pretty B-list villains. We see the Shocker. We see pretty much B and C-list villains. We see Shocker out. We see Electro, Shocker, Rhino, Sandman, Dr. Octopus, Vulture. We see all kinds of them. And we even see the Enforcers, and we even see those ones, and then we see Black Cat, and we even see the Lizard. So then we get an A-list villain, that being Green Goblin. He got put into A-list stardom in the comics and kept that when he got put in the movies. Dr. Octopus, yeah, I'd say he was an A-list villain, along with Venom, of course, he was another A-list villain. Venom was later brought on in the later season. Around the second season is when Venom was now brought into the fray. And this was really unique because they told the classic symbiote storyline, with it attaching to Peter, then realizing it's corrupting him, then rip it off him and give it to Eddie, who would end up taking the Venom title, and it would look really cool. And I thought it was so unique and cool. And even nowadays, the show still holds up to what it is now. The greatness it was. Even my mom really liked this show. Like, she really liked it. Like, she loves the new animated series. She likes the new animated series. She quite likes it, actually. Like, she very much likes it. The only thing she didn't really like, she wasn't really big on the animation. But I can see why. But nonetheless, she loves Spectacular Spider-Man. Since she saw it at quite around the time I was, she enjoyed it. I especially enjoyed it because, well, it was an extension for the Raimi films. I've never really seen the 90s cartoon, but I do indeed like the 60s cartoon that came out in the late 60s and 70s, because I like those classic old-timey shows. Spider-Woman, I don't really mind Spider-Woman. Not really big on the 80s Spider-Man cartoon, I don't mind Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, the 90s cartoon, the new animated series, Spectacular Spider-Man, even Ultimate Spider-Man and the Marvel's Spider-Man Maximum Venom. Controversial decision, I know, but they're alright in a sense. The Ultimate Spider-Man's alright, and Marvel's Spider-Man's meh. It's not back to basics though, so. But yeah, nonetheless, I thought it was alright, and I really do think it was alright. The story for this one is amazingly well told, in my opinion. Overall, it's amazingly well told. The action is very visceral and amazingly feels well. Both seasons carry a lot of different action scenes, fight scenes with the Green Goblin in the air and on the ground. Such unique ones. The season 2 had such a big finale, and spoilers for those who haven't seen it, it ends with the big explosions. Bombs have been planted throughout the city. Many a Green Goblin's men have been sent to shoot up Spider-Man from the ground into the skies to take him down. And Green Goblin has now revealed himself as Norman Osborn, with Chameleon dressing up as Norman Osborn to fake it so that Peter would think he wasn't Green Goblin. And then, yeah, it was so shocking because then, yeah, that was just so shocking and surprising, and I found it so fun and interesting about how they did it with the action, and I thought it was very visceral. Felt very visceral and unique. It felt so visceral and unique of how they did it with the story and characters. Next, we have the characters and voice acting. The characters is really well done. I think it does really well, the characters. These characters are unique. They merge what was great about their Ultimate counterparts and merge what was great about their film counterparts and their comic book ones. So it kind of merges that into one being of a character, and it's so uniquely well done, although I do think it is done more better in the video games. But nonetheless, I thought it was amazingly well done, and I thought they did it well with the characters. Their takes on Peter Parker, Gwen, Harry Osborn, MJ, Flash was all done well. The voice acting, I really like how they portray real life. They portray really good teenagers, and Josh Keane just portrays that cockyish, very overconfident, cocky Spider-Man that we see, and he does end up reprising the role in Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions End of Time as both Ultimate Spider-Man for Shattered Dimensions and also as Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man for So yeah, like I mentioned in the last review for Tenas, the new animated series, so voice actors like Dan Gilderzan from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends got to reprise his role as Spider-Man in... So yeah, most of these voice actors have reprised their roles, like Paul Solzman got to reprise his role in Spider-Woman, it's in the TV show Spider-Woman, not a video game, after they never reprised the role again. Todd Schumer didn't get to reprise the role. Dan Gilderzan reprised the role in Spider-Man Shared Dimensions as Spider-Man 2099, aka Miguel O'Hara, as a more quippy 2099 Spider-Man, who I was also introduced to. And then after that was Christopher Daniel Barnes, who reprised the role of Spider-Man Noir, who played the role of Spider-Man Noir, and also played the role of Spider-Man 2099 in Edge of Time, along with Rina Romano, who also reprised the role in the Spider-Man 2000s games, Spider-Man 2000 and Spider-Man Enter Electro in 2001. That game was actually, both those games are actually quite good. The first one was really good. The second one was scraping the bit of the villain barrel, and they did have alterations to Final Battle due to 9/11. And if you want to know more about that, check out the speech video I posted on my channel. Just go down to click the little tiny box on here with the mouse or your finger, push it with your finger, and then scroll down and go down, press on the banner with the green ninja face, and then go down there, you have Movie Master. Overall, yes, I do think it looks really good. I think overall, even Neil Patrick Harris was brought back from the new animated series to play Amazing Spider-Man, and Josh Keaton, like I mentioned in the video, was brought back for Shattered Dimensions as Ultimate Spider-Man and Edge of Time as Amazing Spider-Man, the 616. Now, back onto the point, like I said, the voice acting is amazingly well done, and overall, I think they did a good job with the voice acting and the casting for them. The comic accuracy is just so amazingly well done. They take the comic accuracy from the original and make it brand new. And Spring, they take a bunch of the comics from the 60s and 70s when Peter's in high school, slam it down for developing, salt on a bit of, cover it with a bit of smoothness from the Ultimate Comics and later incarnations, salt it over with some new ideas of their own, and then slam it with a cover that's similar, that's different ideas for modern day, and then cook it up, and then bait it out, and boom, it's made into the episodes that we see before it. It does accuracy like he dates Liz Allen, and even has a flame with Betty Brant, dates Gwen Stacy, and will likely date MJ and then probably marry her like in the comics. So yeah, and this was, I think, the comic accuracy in this is very good, and I really think they did well. And yeah, we would have gone more of it had they continued. So, inspiration from other sources. This is one that I really love. They got sources of inspiration from the Raimi films, and I do like how, because then, like I mentioned in this game, the new animated series, Spider-Man, the new animated series continued, will have a lot more connections to the new series. The continued one made by the fans, the series 2, the fan-made one, will be continued and bring more references to the first Raimi film. So yeah, it will continue the Raimi film, and it continues the Raimi films and how they were done, the first Raimi film, and even maybe bring in plot lines from the second and third one and incorporate it into these ones. So yeah, but yeah, Spectacular Spider-Man does that. It adapts some stuff from the classic comics from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, even the ones from the 2000s. And even other shows like the 60s one, the Amazing Friends one, the 90s cartoon, even Tenas, and also the movies like the three Raimi films. They're gonna take it from the sources and their own ideas. Just mush that all into one, and you got a glory of a show. And I really think they did that well with inspiration. Now the villains. The villains were amazingly well done. What else is there to say? And now off the top of my head, they did Green Goblin. No, this isn't in order. Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, Sandman, Venom, Shocker, Rhino, Electro, Lizard, Vulture, Mysterio. Forgot about mentioning that one. Anti-hero / villain Black Cat, Chameleon, And even have referenced ones that only mention once or twice. Cletus Cassidy, he's not a main villain, but he's referenced. And yeah, that's pretty much most of the villains. There are more. Oh yeah, Kraven the Hunter. He's another one there. More that have come along, like Hammerhead and Silver Sable and other ones, but those aren't all. I'm not going to name them all off and on. So yeah. Even Tombstone, so yeah, and Wilson Fisk would have appeared later on, but that never happened. And even Hobgoblin. Hobgoblin was set to reappear. Hobgoblin was set to appear, I mean. Green Goblin to reappear in a bunch of his other baddies. And of course, Venom, like I said earlier. But yeah, the villains were amazingly well done on this one. Raimi film taking the films, comics, and their own ideas, making it into one good thing. Symbiote, like I already said, they just did well with the symbiote story. I thought they did really well with how they did it, and overall, it was just done really brilliantly. Now, the final bit of this. Now, this is the final bit where I say that the theme song is amazing. It's the theme song by Tinderbox. It's clearly, it's an iconic theme song, and I really think it was done well. This theme song just really feels like a 2000s one, and it screams out 2000s show. Just you could tell. Whereas the new animated series, you could tell it was MTV, and you could tell that it was an animated show for 2003 because of how it looked. This one, you could tell it was just a late 2000s, mid to late 2000s one, and it really was well with the theme song. I can even still sing it, but I don't want to be embarrassed. And yeah, overall, I think it was really good. I thought it was a really awesome show, and I still think it's awesome and badass now. Now, what do I give it? 10 out of 10, I've already said story, action, characters, voice acting, comic accuracy, inspiration from other sources, villains, symbiote, theme song, and the show itself. And now I'm going to cover it. I give it a 10 out of 10. Now I'm going to talk the story of why it was cancelled. So let's begin. After the show had 2 successful seasons, it was meant to get renewed for a 3rd season and even get a straight-to-DVD movie that was going to be set with the class going on a visit trip, and Peter was going to fight the lizard. The story was going to continue off the cliffhanging season 2 ending and all that, and it was going to continue with what was left off in season 1 and 2. But during this time, in 2009, Marvel was bought by Disney. And Disney said that they would leave all open deals that Marvel had with other companies to leave alone. But Disney got a bit too greedy and decided to interfere with the deals, wanting more money from the Spider-Man shows. Because when they purchased Marvel, they wanted to intend to get Spider-Man. But the thing was that they couldn't. Spider-Man was owned by Sony. Those were all Sony things. Sony had bought Spider-Man in the late 90s. So they couldn't get him. So they asked them, they decided to come. Here's the thing that would happen. Soon Sony would break a deal by selling off the rights of TV shows, because, well, when they kept interfering in the TV shows, they decided to cancel it. At first, it was going to go for another season, but here's the issue. It's a complication. I'll explain it later, but after the show was cancelled, another show, Ultimate Spider-Man, was brought on as sort of like a replacement on Disney XD, and then that show was cancelled. It was ended at 5 seasons and cancelled. And the Marvel Spider-Man got 3 seasons, and after it kind of got poor reception, they cancelled it. They finished it off actually after 3 seasons, and now there's another one Disney's making that will hopefully be better than the others, and that one may tell a more comic book storyline. Overall, yeah, so here's the bit where it happened. So when the show was going to do another season, Disney interfered to try and get more money, and they knew Sony owned it. So here's the deal. What needs to happen is Spectacular Spider-Man can get renewed for another season. But here's the thing. Sony owns the distribution rights. They can make the show, but Marvel TV must greenlight it. So Marvel TV needs to greenlight the show and put it into production. And Sony must also agree to want to do another season, and then that's when they can make the season and produce it and release it. But since Sony owned the distributing rights to the show and could only they could distribute it, and then whereas Disney owned the rights to the TV show itself, neither one could make it without the other. I think they made it that way, so neither could make it without the other. It eventually ended up like that. Sony luckily made it like that, so they couldn't do that. And yeah, this ended up like this, and pretty much this is why it exploded and then failed. And after realizing they couldn't make it, they cancelled it and then just went off with a new show, Disney. And the merchandising, and they got the rights to the merchandising, which means any film or TV show that was released, they'll get the merchandising for it. So the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, anybody who bought a toy for the Amazing Spider-Man released in 2012 and the Amazing Spider-Man 2 in 2014, you were basically giving your money to Disney because, well, they own the merchandising rights. So yeah, that's where all the money went to. And then eventually Sony and Disney did make another deal about Spider-Man way in the future. But yeah, nonetheless, this was my review on the Spectacular Spider-Man series. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I was very happy to do this. I've always loved this show for a long time. And as you know, I'm flipping through the pages. I really loved this show as a kid. And I'm just so excited I got to do this again. And that I'm very excited how I got to do this review this film yet again as a fan of the show. And I was so excited. And that is the video. So tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Did you hate the video? Did you love it? Did you think it was terrible? Just tell me what you think in the comments below. So yeah, and if you're wondering what I'm writing on my book, it's basically this. Sometimes when I don't really want to write on a page, I'll just write random stuff on it and then just leave it empty. Blank page. So yeah, basically that's what I'm doing right now. But yeah, this is the second to last video for Spider-Man month. I've been enjoying this event. I've enjoyed making and doing this event on my channel, and I'm happy that I've done it, and I'm very excited. I'm saddened I'm hoping that we will see Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield reprise their roles as Spider-Man. Obviously, Tom's coming back as Spider-Man in the next trilogy, but I do hope to see Andrew and Tobey reappear in the next films. And it was awesome seeing them. I hope to see them together one day, and I hope to see them reappear together. So yeah. But yeah. Make sure to like, subscribe,